Hello everyone and welcome back to Prestige Reef. It is day 3 of the vlog series. This is not Vlogmas, this is just because I just so happen to have less shipments in December, so I've got more time, so I thought I would, spend that time wisely creating a video and, as I said, motivating myself to fix the water box, which should have been done years ago. Anyway, in yesterday's video I promised you that I would talk to you about, this is the benefits of being on a spinning chair. I promise you I talked about this system. This is a full shop system. This actually is, the system's only about, I think, 3 or 4 months old. It came from a shop which closed down. It cost me about £500 and I thought to myself, for £500, I'm sure that I can do something with this system. Now, many of you will know, if you've seen previous videos, this system sat empty in the hallway of my house for literally months. And the reason it sat there was because it is in fact too big to fit into this room. It had to essentially be broken apart and then reassembled to fit in. The second thing you'll notice is the top 3 tanks aren't full, and the reason for that is because this tank is upstairs. Now, I don't know how many of you have tanks which are approximately 700 kilos when full upstairs, but I didn't fancy having that. So I thought I'd fill just the bottom tank and the middle tank and we'll go from there. Plus, at the moment I don't need it for anything else, but this system has an exciting future. Right, so the system itself consists of 3 tiers. So you have the top tier, which, as I said, I'm not using. I may end up using it in the future if my confidence and stupidity increases, but for now I don't really need it, so I'm probably just going to end up using it for storage. Then we have the middle system, which consists of 3 tanks, and then the bottom system, which consists of 2 tanks, slightly larger than the 3 in the middle. Now what I've done is I actually have 3 internal filters as well. So I've got one here, and one here. Those allow me to essentially run those tanks independently of the other 3. All I need to do is turn these off if I want to, and then I can run them separately. Now the reason they're in there at the moment is actually because they've come out of other quarantine tanks. And because this system was set up without being cycled, I wanted to get the most amount of bacteria transferred from other systems. So you can see in here is the filter media from the water box, as well as obviously that was in the other quarantine tank originally. This system was set up in a rush, and the reason it was set up in a rush was because I got 3 very, very special fish. Now these fish are Japanese masked swallow-tailed angelfish. They are incredibly rare. The last time I saw one of these was 2 or 3 years ago. This is a male and I have 2 females. The male is actually much more shy than the females. It will take a little bit of a while for him to come out, but I'll probably put food in there in a minute. And then the females are up here. So you can see that she's not shy at all. Now I said to you I'd let you know what happened with the Nasotang, and you can probably tell from this clip what happened to her. You can see she's become quite skinny. She essentially stopped eating while in the other tank. I had a choice. Either I could try and plow through and see if I could get her to complete the quarantine and then fatten her up in the water box tank, or I could take her out of there, put her in here, give her as much food as she needs, because this tank gets fed 3 or 4 times a day, as well as she always has access. When I say always, I mean most of the time she has access to Nori on here, which you can see she's almost finished. Now, I keep an eye on the ammonia with this. It doesn't, the filter on the camera makes it look weird, but it's very clearly has 0 ammonia, and I've got one there, and I also have one here just in case one of them isn't correct, just as a precaution. Now on top of that female, I also have a second female, which is this one. One of these is going to Reef Dork. This is the smaller one. There is the larger one actually has a chunk missing out of her fin. Originally they were all together, so the male and the 2 females were all in the same tank and they were all together. However, when I moved them here, the male became quite aggressive to the females, so she actually has a bite out of her fin. I put Melifix in the other day just to help aid with healing, which I believe is just essentially tea tree oil. How much of an effect it's had, I don't know. So the other fish in this tank, I have a yellow wrasse, not a yellow chorus wrasse, because the yellow chorus wrasse doesn't exist. This is just a yellow wrasse. I've got, obviously, the Nasotang, a copper band, which is not eating at the moment, but I'm going to try something in a minute because I bought some live food for it, just to see if I can trick it into eating. I'm going to clear out all of this food first because this food is no good anymore. I am lucky that the golden angel has come out because usually she's in here. Golden angels are incredibly secretive, and similar to the copper band, she also hasn't eaten either. So again, I've got live food to tempt them. That's why they're in a tank together, because all the other fish eat like pigs. So if they're together, there's essentially very little competition. In the final tank, I have another one of Reef Dork's fish, which is a scarlet hawkfish. Those of you that follow his channel will know that he had an issue with disease recently. His tank is currently fallow, and he's also quarantining his own fish. So at the moment, because I was going to quarantine the angelfish for him, I asked him if he wanted me to do anything else, and he said, yeah, can I do this hawkfish? So I'm doing that. You can see the male has just started to come out, so let's see if we can sneak over to him before he disappears. He's actually quite greedy. Originally, he wouldn't eat. He wouldn't eat anything. And as I said, this is not a cheap fish. I had quite a few sleepless nights at first, but he now eats. He's exactly the same as the female, so he eats loads. There's a little tiny piece of lymphocystis on the lower part of his fin, which you can see here. That's not uncommon with angelfish. It's also not a problem. It's not something that's deadly. So I'm not overly concerned about it at the moment, and what usually happens is it will just fall off. I cannot tell you the last time that I was this excited about having a fish, because I've waited for so long to have one. So if you're in the market for rare and expensive fish, then Ed at Moss End is probably the best person to talk to, because he can usually get most things. And the final two fish in here are a male leopard wrasse, which is this one, and a female leopard wrasse. Now both of these are quite difficult fish to keep. They probably will be difficult to quarantine. I'm probably going to do a different quarantine method to last time. At the moment, all of the fish are getting Metroplex, but that's it. I've not given them anything else. Wrasses can be a little bit sensitive to copper. They're also known as expert-only fish, and it's mainly because they're not eating, but these two are eating, so that's great. Right, so now you've seen all of the new fish, let me go down and grab the live food to see if we can get the copper band eating for the first time and the golden angel. The golden angel is the main one I need to get eating for the first time. Now when it comes to fish which won't eat, the most important thing is not waiting and hoping that it will just be hungrier tomorrow. Variety is the most important thing. So the number one frozen fish food I always try to get all fish onto is mysis, because it has the highest nutritional value. Then I have a mixture of brine shrimp and garlic, and this is sort of a marine mix. I think there's 4 different types of food in it, just in case maybe it will go for one of them. And if those two fail, I will then move on to live food, depending on the size of the fish. So here, because the fish are small, I've got copepods. Now that's obviously not going to work when I had to try to feed the angelfish, because he's obviously way too big for copepods, so he won't even notice them. However, he would eat brine shrimp, and I have a feeling that the cop band will go for brine shrimp. The angelfish, however, was quite difficult to get eating. It was really weird. It would eat frozen brine shrimp, but it wouldn't eat live brine shrimp, and it would eat live mysis, but it wouldn't eat frozen mysis, which was obviously costing me an arm and a leg. And also, it's not easy to source like huge quantities of live food. Then this is the mysis which he was eating, so I have a feeling the cop band will eat this as well, but I think these are probably going to be too big for the golden angel. Now the reason I've got a whole different mix of them is to just put them all in one go and just see which one it eats, and then if it eats one of them, I'll then go back and get more of that specific type. But hopefully it will eat these, and spoiler alert, I've already tried feeding it the last 7 days. It doesn't eat these, so I'll put it in anyway, and if it actually starts eating, if either of them start eating, then I can assure you that's just luck. One final shout I want to give, and again, this is not a sponsored video, these are absolutely brilliant. You can see how much food, this is actually the second feed for them for the day, because when it comes to quarantining fish, it's really important that they eat or have access to food all the time. Just because copper will often suppress their feeding response. So I always try to get the fish really feeding heavily before. Now it's really important, the reason they're so important is because they are live bacteria, and as I said, all of these fish have gone into a completely uncycled system, and the only way I can do that is by adding beneficial bacteria. Now these come in like little balls, and you just throw them in the tank, and as I said, generally speaking, I'm always skeptical about products where I'm not 100% sure really what they do. These 100% work. I use them here, I use them at Aqua. They were, there's no reason for me to show you this. How often do I show you other things? This is not sponsored. This will really help people in the future, potentially. Right now it's pretty simple. I just use a pipette, and then I just squirt it, and you can see, look, the females, absolutely, they don't mess around when it comes to food. One of the things I found interesting though, is when it settles on the bottom, they're not that interested in it. And the reason they're not that interested is because they're used to catching food out of the water column. They're not like a tang which eats off the rocks. Now I'm not going to feed this tang yet. This tank's going to be fed last, because hopefully it will trick the cough band into sometimes grabbing a piece of frozen food rather than live food. You can see the Nassau tang doesn't have any issue eating at all. She's actually the reason these systems get fed so much every day. And as I said, I keep an eye on the ammonia constantly. Down here, you can see, look, the wrasse, expert only fish, they say, because they're difficult to get feeding. You can see that straight away, they don't mess around. The male can be a little bit dominant with regards to the female. They came from the same tank, so they should be fine, but every so often he will swim over and sort of give her a little peck. Maybe it's like an affectionate kiss, but it just sort of keeps her in her place, I think. So you can see that those two are feeding again. They get fed 3-4 times a day at the moment. That probably will change when it comes to them going in the water box, but if I start to see them get thin, I'll just start feeding them more often. Right, so I'm going to give him the rest of the food because, as you can see, he is a big boy, so he needs more energy. This fish has been affectionately named Goldeneye by Rachel. She also, as I said, named all the fish that are currently in the water box tank. It's a just name for him, considering his bright gold eyes. However, she has not named any of the other fish in this system, so if you want to try and beat her to it, I'll let people in the comment section. If you want to try and name the wrasse, the male peacock wrasse and the female peacock wrasse, we'll start from there. When it comes to live food, the most important thing is to remove all of the live food, whether it's copepods, brine shrimp, mysis, from the water that it's in. And the best way to do that is to literally cut off the top of the plastic and then pour it into a net, because the net, even with copepods, will catch most of the copepods themselves. For this feeding, I'm going to put both brine shrimp and the copepods into the same batch and pour these in together. You can see that the fish in here are not starved at all. And then you essentially get the net with all the little shrimps wriggling around, and you put it into the tank, and then you drag the tank backwards. You drag the net backwards, sorry, just to get all of the shrimp out. Now the shrimp at first are usually shocked, so they don't start swimming, and then after about 30 seconds they start swimming around, and we shall see if there is much interest from the cough band. Remember, this cough band hasn't, there you go, immediately. That's the power of live food. This cough band hasn't eaten for quite a few days, and it has instantly started feeding. So don't forget live food as part of your arsenal with regards to how to keep fish alive. And now I've added some of the frozen food as well, just to see if it can be tricked, even if it's just one of them that gets tricked. So we have to watch very carefully. There's definitely a lot more activity from the golden angel. Now what will happen to all this food, anything that doesn't get eaten, I literally will scoop out and then move over to a different tank, probably within about 5 minutes. Oh, I really thought the golden angel was going to eat then. This is such a pretty fish, and you just don't see them that often. They are one of my favourite fish. There is a possibility that the flame angel won't like it. The tank's pretty big. I once kept 7 dwarf angels together. I'm actually considering doing it again because there's a multicolour that I've seen as well, which I really like. It will increase the risk with regards to what corals I can keep, but that was the whole purpose of this tank. It was so long ago that I've almost forgotten that that was the reason I did it. It's hard to know for certain, but I'm almost... No, that there is chasing as a live one. But I'm pretty sure it just took some of the frozen brine shrimp, which will be amazing. I've just turned the flow up just to get some of the pieces off the floor because they'll start moving around a bit more. But yeah, no, still mainly focusing on the live ones. Golden Angel, still not showing much signs. If you have any tips with regards to how to get it feeding, let me know. I've tried everything. I've tried mysis, I've even tried like ground up nori. In this batch, there was actually a tiny piece of like amount of coral food, just because obviously coral food is a powder. So, and he's got such a small mouth, I thought maybe, even if it's just a few little particles, it's still better than nothing. It's hard to differentiate what he is and isn't eating, but you can see how he looks at each piece. You can see how he looks at each piece and then decides if he's going to take a bite. But this is what needs to be done. If you want a copper band, they play by their own rules. If it's not feeding, you'll need to do this. Eventually you will get it feeding. This one actually was feeding on frozen food until I moved it from one tank to this tank, and then it stopped feeding. So that's how delicate they can be with regards to stress. Stress is the biggest thing that kills copper bands, and it usually comes from their tank mates. So if you can get a copper band that's eating and put it in with peaceful tank mates, they're not actually that difficult to keep alive anymore. Right now I've just added the live mysis, which again the copper band is eating, but so far not so much activity from the Golden Angel. The other thing I've done is I've turned all the lights off on all of the systems except for the room light, and the reason for that is Golden Angels are incredibly shy, cryptic creatures. I cannot imagine having bright LEDs above them is going to be conditioning them where they're happy to eat. So what you need to do with fish that aren't eating is try everything. Try feed them in the day, try feed them in the night, try feed them in the light, in the dark. It's like, it doesn't matter. Try all different foods, just do what needs to be done, as well as while also maintaining water quality, and eventually you should be able to get them to eat. Remember, it is a natural instinct for fish to want to eat. It's a natural instinct for everything to want to eat. All fish which aren't ill, are in good water quality and in the right environment should be able to eat eventually. Right, that's it for today guys. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you did enjoy it, why not click that like and subscribe button? It means a massive amount. And as I said, the more subscribers that I get, the more motivation I have to keep this 30-day series going. So have a good day, I guess, and I'll see you tomorrow.